Crazy Amaka was a kind woman. Everyone knew this. But there were days when her behavior was like the unpredictable wind, blowing hot and cold with no warning. On one of those days, she walked into the police station, her long skirt squishing around her ankles. Her expression set with determination. Her lips moved continuously, whispering words only she could understand. The officers were too engrossed in their paperwork to notice her at first, until she broke into a song. I remember when I was a soldier. Amaka's voice rang out across the room, startling the officers. They looked up, confusion etched across their faces. As they watched her march around the station, lifting her legs high and swinging her arms, as if she were on a parade ground. Madam, please, what is this about? An officer asked, rising from his desk and approaching her cautiously. His tone gentle but firm. Attention! Amaka backed, not breaking her stride. I fought for this country, and now you won't pay my salary. Her voice rose in intensity, drawing stares from other officers. A few officers exchanged amused glances. One of them tried to reason with her. Ma, please calm down. If you have a problem, we can help you, but you need to tell us what is going on. Amaka halted, her hand snapping up in a salute. Her expression stern. The problem, she declared, is that you are not doing your duty. If I had commanded troops like this, we would have lost the war. The officers struggled to keep a straight face. The others, unable to hold back any longer, erupted in laughter. The sound seemed to snap Amaka back to reality. The fire in her eyes dimmed, and she looked around the room, as if seeing it for the first time. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and she mumbled, I just came to report. Her voice trailed into silence. Never mind, she whispered. Amaka turned and left the station, her steps quick and unsteady, as though she were fleeing. As she walked away, a dull headache began to throb at the back of her head. It was a familiar pain, a reminder of the accident, of the day her life had veered off course. Amaka's childhood was a world of contradictions. Her father was a charismatic man, the kind who brought her dolls and sweets and took her out for ice creams on Saturdays. But there was another side to him, a side that only emerged in the late hours, when the world was dark and his temper was fueled by bitterness. She remembered those nights, her mother cries muffled by the tin walls, her father's booming voice echoing through the small house. Why do you stay, Mama? Amaka asked one night, her small hands clutching her mother's dress, her voice trembling as she spoke. She had seen her mother's bruised face too many times to count, but the question had always lingered at the back of her mind. Her mother knelt down, pulling her close. We fell in love, she whispered, stroking Amaka's hair with trembling hands. Your father, he was a different man when we married. There was kindness in him, her voice broke, and the tears escaped down her cheek. But life changes people, my dear. Amaka's young mind struggled to understand. What changed him, she asked finally, her voice barely audible. Her mother hesitated, the pain in her eyes deepening. I couldn't have more children after you, she confessed. The rumors. People said he was important. He couldn't bear the shame. I did get pregnant again once. She choked on the words. It beat me so badly I lost the baby. Her voice was raw with emotion. After that, something in him just broke, and it never healed. Amaka couldn't comprehend the weight of it all back then. She only knew one thing. Whatever love was, it seemed like a terrible, painful thing. I would never marry, she declared fiercely. I would never allow anyone hurt me like that. Her mother's sad smile was a mixture of resignation and hope. Love will find you, Amaka. A love so true you will marvel at the thought, she would say, her voice soft and soothing. Amaka was in her second year of university when the news arrived. A car accident. Her parents were gone. She remembered sitting in the dean's office, staring blankly at the man who was trying to offer words of comfort. But his voice seemed distant. His voice sounded so far, as if coming from the end of a long tunnel. Everything around her seemed to spin, and a suffocating emptiness settled in her chest. In one cruel moment, the complicated mixture of love and pain was gone. Despite the tragedy, Amaka was resilient. She threw herself into her studies, burying her grief beneath mountains of textbook and term papers. She won scholarships, accolades, and excelled in everything she put her mind to. Marriage and family were the farthest things from her thoughts. She had built a fortress around herself, strong, unyielding, and determined never to let the pain seep in again. Years later, at 35, Amaka was living a quiet, orderly life. As a financial analyst, it was an unremarkable afternoon when the event that would change her life forever occurred. She was walking home, the sun beating down on the asphalt, when the screech of tires pierced the air. She looked up just in time to see a car hurtling towards the telephone pole. The impact was sudden, metal crumpling with a deafening crash. Amaka sat, pounded in her chest as she ran towards the wreckage, her breath coming in short gaps. Through the shattered window, she saw a boy, no older than 5, trapped in the back seat. His eyes were wide with terror. "Hold on," she yelled, her voice trembling, hands fumbling with the seatbelt. Finally, managing to release it. She put the boy from the car and stumbled backward. In her haste, her foot slipped on the uneven pavement and she fell, her head striking the ground with a sickening thud. Hi bestie, if you're watching to this point, please subscribe. Turn on your post notifications to always be notified when I post a new video. And please don't skip my ads, they really help this channel. Share and back to the story. She put the boy from the car and stumbled backward. In her haste, her foot slipped on the uneven pavement and she fell, her head striking the ground with a sickening thud. As darkness closed in, the last thing she remembered was the sound of the boy's cries, mingling with the approaching sirens. Weeks later, Amaka woke up in the hospital bed, her head wrapped in bandages. She had suffered a concussion, the doctor said, but she was lucky. Lucky, she thought bitterly. How ironic. Her life since the accident had been anything but lucky. The boy, whose name was Ibuka, had no known relatives and the authorities were preparing to send him to an orphanage. But Amaka, remembering how his small hand had gripped hers in the wreckage, couldn't bring herself to let him go. "I'll take care of him," she insisted to the social worker. Her voice was unyielding. "He needs a home and I need him too." At first, everything seemed fine. The headaches that came and went were easy enough to ignore. It wasn't until she began forgetting things, small things at first, like whether she had locked the door or turned off the stove, that she started to worry. But she brushed it off as stress. Then came the rage, the sudden, inexplicable burst of anger. It first happened while she and Ibuka were watching wrestling on TV. One of the wrestlers was slammed into the mat, and something about the sight of the violence on the screen ignited the fire in her chest. Without thinking, she picked up the remote and hurled it at the TV, shattering the screen. Ibuka jumped up, his small frame trembling in fear. "Mama, what's wrong?" Amaka's chest heaved as she struggled to calm the storm inside her. "The TV, it was acting up," she said weakly, as if that could somehow justify the outburst. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. Very wrong. The episode grew more frequent and erratic. Some days, Amaka was the loving mother who tucked Ibuka in at night and helped him with his homework. Other days, she was someone else entirely. A stranger who would wander the streets, muttering to herself or break into a song at the police station. Ibuka adapted to these shifts as best as a child could. At 10, he was wiser than his years, learning to read the look in his mother's eyes, to gauge whether it was a good day or a bad one. But no matter how unpredictable she was, his love for her never wavered. She was the woman who had saved him, who had fought to keep him when no one else would. He called her Mama, with a love that was fierce and unshakable. That night, as Amaka tucked him into bed, she looked down at him with tears brimming in her eyes. "Ibuka," she whispered, stroking his cheek, "do you know how much I love you?" Ibuka nodded, his eyes round and serious. "You told me every day, Mama." "Good," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "Because I need you to remember it, especially on days when her voice strayed off, unable to finish the sentence. "When you have bad days," Ibuka completed for her with a soft, understanding smile. "It's okay, Mama. I know you don't mean to get angry. I know you love me." Amaka pulled him into a tight embrace, her heart swelling with both pride and sorrow. "You are a good boy, Ibuka. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me." The love they shared did not go unnoticed in the small community, but it also did not shield Ebuka from the whispers and taunts of others. There goes the mad woman's son, some kids would say, snickering as he walked past them at school. One day during lunch break, a boy named Chijioke shoved Ebuka to the ground. Why do you even bother coming to school? Chijioke sneered. Everyone knows your mother is crazy. She should be in a hospital, not raising a kid. Ebuka's cheeks flushed a mix of anger and embarrassment as he picked himself up from the dusty ground. Don't talk about my mother like that, he said, his voice trembling with rage. And what are you going to do about it, mad woman's son? Chijioke taunted, crossing his arms. Before Ebuka could react, Amaka appeared, having to come to the school unannounced. She had caught the exchange from the gate. Without a moment's hesitation, she stormed towards the boys, eyes blazing. Who called my son mad? She shouted, her voice carrying across the school ground. Who has the audacity to insult him? The other kids scattered like leaves in the wind, but Chijioke stood frozen in fear. Amaka grabbed him by the collar, a grip strong and unyielding. Do you know who Ebuka is? She yelled, shaking him slightly. He's the bravest boy I know, and you will not speak to him with disrespect. A teacher hurried over to calm the situation, gently prying Amaka's fingers off Chijioke's shirt. Ma, please, this is not necessary, the teacher said softly. He's just a child, and so is my son, Amaka shot back. Releasing Chijioke, you will show him the same respect you would show anyone else. Chijioke ran away, his bravado completely shattered, and Ebuka felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Gratitude for his mother's fierce defense and shame for the sin it had caused. As they walked home, Amaka squeezed Ebuka's hand. Don't ever let anyone make you feel less than you are, she said, her voice steady. You're my son and that makes you special. Ebuka tightened his grip on Amaka's hand and looked up at her. Mama, I love you, he said quietly. Amaka felt the tears prick at her eyes as she looked down at him, her heart swelling with a love that was almost painful. I love you too, my son, she whispered back. A sad smile spreading across her face. They were a happy and complete family in all sense. But not everyone saw things that way. Rumors about Amaka's mental state circulated, and soon, word reached the authorities. A social worker knocked on their door one afternoon, bearing a grim expression. Mrs. Amaka, we've received reports concerning your behavior, she said. I am afraid we have to assess your ability to care for Ibuka. The custody battle that ensued was the hardest fight of Amaka's life. In court, our episodes were laid bare. Each public outburst, every reported incident, were meticulously presented as evidence against her. The lawyer for child services spoke confidently about Ibuka's unstable environment and questioned Amaka's capability to provide a suitable home for him. Amaka sat quietly, her hands clasped in her lap. She could feel the walls closing in, every word from the lawyer's mouth digging deeper into her heart, like a knife. But when her turn to speak came, she rose to her feet with quiet determination. I may not be perfect, she began, her voice clear and steady, but I love my son. He is the reason I get up every morning. He is my light when everyone else left me in the darkness. He was the one who held my hand and led me home. Several witnesses came forward to testify. Neighbors spoke of the tender moments they had seen. Amaka and Ibuka walking hand in hand to the market, Amaka helping him with his homework at the kitchen table, their laughter ringing through the thin walls of their small apartment. Even the teacher from the incident with Chijioke spoke on Amaka's behalf, recounting how fiercely she defended her son. But it was Ibuka's testimony that would be the turning point. When he was called to the stand, the boy's hand shook slightly, but his voice was firm. My mother is not mad, he said, his young voice echoing through the courtroom. She's the best mother anyone could ask for. She saved my life when I was little, and she takes care of me every day, even on the days when she feels sad. She still makes sure I eat, she still helps me with my homework, and she still tells me she loves me. The room fell silent as Ibuka continued, his eyes glistening with tears. You say she's not fit to be my mom because she has bad days. But who doesn't have bad days? I know she loves me more than anyone else in the world could. She's not just my mother. She's my hero. I wouldn't trade her for any other mom, not ever. The judge's gaze softened as he listened to the boy speak. In the end, it was clear that despite Amaka's struggles, the bond she shared with her son was deep, unbreakable, and rooted in love. The court ruled in her favor, and Ibuka remained in her care. The court also assigned a doctor to regularly check on Amaka to make sure she was okay. As they left the courtroom, Amaka knelt down and hugged Ibuka tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for believing in me." Ibuka smiled, his eyes shining with a mix of relief and joy. "You are my mama," he said simply. "There's no better mother than you." In that moment, Amaka realized that no matter how many dark days lay ahead, the love she shared with Ibuka would always be her guiding light, a light strong enough to break through any darkness. Years later, Ibuka stood on the stage, wearing his graduation gown. As he gazed at the crowd, he found his mother in the front row. Her eyes, usually so distant and unfocused, were clear and filled with pride that day. "My mother, Amaka, saved me in more ways than one," Ibuka began, his voice strong yet trembling with emotion. "She took me in when I was an orphan, and despite her own struggles, she raised me with love and devotion. Yes, there were days when she wasn't herself, days when she would say things that didn't make sense, or when I had to bring her back home from the streets, but never once did I doubt her love for me." The crowd was silent, captivated by his words. "She gave me everything she could, even when her own mind was betraying her. And today, I stand here not just as a graduate, but as a son who is deeply grateful for the sacrifice she made. She showed me that love is not always perfect, but it is real and unconditional." Amaka's hands were trembling as she wiped away the tears streaming down her face. For a moment, there was a spark in her eyes, a glimmer of the woman she once was, and still could be, even only in fragments. As the applause swelled, Ibuka descended from the stage. Walking straight to his mother, he knelt before her, embracing her tightly. "Thank you, Mama," he whispered. "You saved me. Now it's my turn to take care of you." Amaka smiled, her arms wrapping around him in a rare moment of clarity, and whispered back, "My love, you were always my miracle." It was not pure, but in that moment, it felt like healing. Hey besties! Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate your support. I don't take it for granted. If you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe already. On this channel, I currently have a membership program going on, and it's just for a little fee. You get exclusive perks that not just anybody gets. You get to tell me the kind of stories, titles, topics you want to see, and I take them as priority. You also get to be the first person to see my new uploads before any other person, and sneak peeks of my behind the scenes projects. So anytime you're waiting for a new video and I haven't uploaded, just check out my other videos. I'm sure you'll find something you like. And as always, I'll see you in my next video. Bye besties! Mwah.